It's a great honor. Thank you so much for invitation. It's really a great honor to be here in Ukraine, in Lviv, together with my esteemed ex-colleagues here at this university. It goes without saying that my heart and my mind are absolutely occupied with what is going on in Ukraine at the moment. And many people around me in Georgia think like me, that the world will have to change after this war. And the aftermath of this war will be that Ukraine will be important, the most important country to follow its principles and values. At least what Ukraine is showing at the moment, that will be very important for Europe, not only Eastern Europe. I'm talking about the Europe in general, if I may. So, Orthodox Church, I will be using Ostpolitik with respect to Irene's introduction, which was very important and interesting and valuable. But, you know, the way Ostpolitik is used today, I'll be referring to it the same way. So, Orthodox Church is a significant player in Ostpolitik. The numbers, intellectual and physical force behind the Russian Orthodox Church make the latter the most important agent of the Vatican Ostpolitik. Therefore, interactions between the Holy See and the Russian Orthodox Church receive a lot of attention and criticism. However, it also carries a danger. A paramount attention given to the Russian Orthodox Church on behalf of the Holy See may have a negative influence on Catholic Orthodox relations in general. The question to answer for me here is, how does Vatican sustain Ostpolitik in the light of ongoing questioning about Pope Francis's position with regard to the war in Ukraine? I will state a few preliminary comments about some aspects of the present pontificate towards the war in Ukraine, which you all know, so I'll be very brief about that. Then we'll expose the level of political engagement of the Russian Orthodox Church, and then we shall assess imbalance in the Holy See and the Russian Orthodox Church relations. So during my years of as ambassador at the Holy See, I learned that the Holy See is far from being a monolithic association of congregations and councils. Neither its actual foreign policies have always coincided with the Pope Francis's actions, as Irena mentioned this too. The Pope has a freedom to say and do according to his own judgment on the spot. What also is a huge task for him to be spiritual leader and supreme head of the Catholic Church worldwide. Perhaps Pope Francis's own background and experience as a critique of the Western or American foreign policies is not to be entirely neglected in the context of Vatican's relation with the Russian Orthodox Church. Well, avoiding saying Ostpolitik here, but this is what I wanted to say. It is true that by today, Pope Francis has condemned the Russian invasion in Ukraine and atrocities of the war, but also as a defender of the Vatican's long-standing policy to choose a peaceful dialogue over any kind of forceful resolution excuse me, of conflicts, condemns arms build-up in Ukraine. And this is a bit controversial. More than once, Pope Francis in his comments spoke in a way that the present war emerged as a result of a conflict of interests between Russia and the United States. In his interview, this famous interview with Il Corriere della Sera, Pope Francis recalled meeting with a head of state before the war who said that NATO barking at Russia's door could have alarmed Russia. Whether NATO was a real threat to Russia or not is another matter, because the war dynamic proved that Russia does not acknowledge Ukraine as a sovereign state, as an independent political entity. Therefore, it invaded Ukraine. Until recently, it was only a part of speculation that invasion into Ukraine served to restoration of the Russian imperial borders. But now, by now, it was proved to be true by Putin when he revealed his self-understanding as an heir to Peter the Great. So invasion was expected, it seems, and is partly justified because Russia has the rule to follow its own agenda, even if that agenda goes contrary to the internationally acclaimed regulations or the real state of affairs. Another thought around this point, when I handed over my letter of credence to Pope Francis in 2014 and then met the Secretary of State with whom we discussed political situation in Georgia, the message was very similar to what we read in that interview in this Corriere della Sera. Namely, that Russia will not give up its historic interests and will protest against the Euro-Atlantic choice of the Georgian state. Then I argued that the choice was made by the Georgian people. Certainly, the Secretary of State remained on his position, which was proven also during the 4.5 years of my presence there. So at the same time, both Pope Benedict and Pope Francis, Benedict XVI and Pope Francis, have been supporters of the territorial integrity of sovereign states. That was a clear message delivered by Pope Benedict and Pope Francis regarding to Georgia since 2008 and in the post-Crimea conflicts as well. In fact, this claim can easily be paired with a claim that the Holy See condemns Russian invasion into other states, but we don't hear this particular message. According to the already mentioned tradition of not taking part in conflicts, the Holy See is avoiding it as far as it is plausible. There are, in my view, significant details to be taken into account when dealing with the Russian Orthodox Church. Foremost, Russian Orthodox Church cannot be separated from the Russian state. Apart from religious nationalism inherent to states of traditional autocephalous churches, today Moscow Patriarchate is hardly separable from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia, and it has been well documented, so I'm not going to speak about this in particular. Four Catholic scholars published a long-awaited commentary on the Russian manipulation of results of the Ostpolitik, in this way Pope Francis's relation to Moscow Patriarchate. It brings to our attention misinterpretation, manipulation of facts and documents related to the Vatican-Moscow Patriarchate encounters. The Russian side manages to prove that the two churches share a position of political neutrality, as well as Pope Francis supports the Russian Orthodox Church in its justification of the war in Ukraine. Thus calling Patriarch Kirill Putin's altar boy, another famous quote from the Pope, was interpreted in Russia in terms of brotherhood, and their relations was set as exemplary for a peacekeeping agenda around the Ukrainian crisis. Manipulation on the part of Russia refers to all aspects, from wording to real state of affairs, and feeds state propaganda. The strife on the part of Russian Orthodox Church to forge an image of Vatican allegedly supporting Russian Orthodox Church in its justification of the war involves the interest in their keen interest in the political content of this affair. When it gets to ecclesiology, Russian Orthodox Church is not so open to church relations with Catholics, perhaps only when it gets to bringing relics to Moscow of some saints. However, Russia and Russian Orthodox Church could not launch a formal initiative to Pope Francis to visit the country. So actually this is enough to prove that the significance of a political agenda is very high, actually for both churches, and certainly with different goals. A Russian Orthodox Church as autocephalous church with a strong imperial legacy naturally fits into an imperial agenda of the Russian state at the moment. The recent declaration of the Russian world, which is quite well known, at the moment, as a kind of ideology. Russian world, Ruski Mir, as an ideology to which Russian Orthodox Church made a substantial contribution, illustrates the issue under the discussion. Vatican's diplomacy, on the other hand, serves non-partisan agenda. It is interested in preservation of dignity of human persons, saving the planet from Anthropocene, backing up dialogue, standing for peace, being a moral authority. So the concluding part is about the Holy See's two positions under the current circumstances, condemning the war, but also urging for a peaceful resolution in the midst of the full-scale war. They are incompatible, counterproductive for peace, which can be reached only through restoration of the territorial integrity of Ukraine and the self-rebranding of Russia. Clarity of this double-edged position is called into question. It brings doubt on fairness of this position towards others as well as towards the Catholics themselves. In fact, it is confusing to support territorial integrity of a state, but also to find excuses for justification of an invasion into another state when Russia strives to pursue its imperial interests. And the latter is about snatching territories and spending billions for setting up channels of transmitting imperial policies. As a theologian, I admire reforms in the Church undertaken by Pope Francis. His intention to unfold the legacy of Vatican II, but I find it challenging to seek relations with the Russian Orthodox Church on an unequal footing. First time I made my opinion public in February 2016 when heads of two churches met in Havana airport. Is it worth maintaining a dialogue when one party is manipulating every aspect of it? The Holy See is well aware of the manipulative powers of Moscow, but continues the business as usual. Any dialogue has its preconditions and requirements, and parties in dialogue must listen to one another. Is Moscow in a listening mood ever? So at present, it seems difficult to continue relations with Russian Orthodox Church when the Orthodox world went bonkers because of the situation in Ukraine. First, in aftermath of granting of the Thomas of Autocephaly to Orthodox Church of Ukraine, and now with positioning of the Moscow Patriarchate itself in Kiev. So certainly, Orthodox churches in Ukraine face a very complex reality, and this will not be resolved soon. Churches do not have that flexibility, as we know, especially the Orthodox Autocephalous churches. The Holy See should be considering this seriously in combination with the fact that in some states with a majority Orthodox population and Autocephalous churches, governments have joined sanctions against Russia, have sacked Russian diplomats, banned import of Russian resources. That is crucial because of Russian Orthodox Church being dominant in some of these places. What is the Holy See's answer to those Orthodox churches, or truly to the Catholics in those states? Pope Francis wisely said in the interview, again, recently with the Jesuit publications in Europe, that reality is discerned, not discussed. Discernment is the charisma of the society. Speaking of a peaceful resolution at this point does not give an impression of the reality being discerned. It supports the spreading of disinformation through Vatican channels. Yes, talking to Patriarch Kirill will be manipulated again, so if they meet in Kazakhstan, but hopefully now that Tokayev spoke to Putin in that way, maybe Kirill will not travel to Kazakhstan. Okay, thank you.